Hi everyone, Anthony here at WPPI 2019 conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm talking to El-Deane from Sony, and he's going to give us an update. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Welcome to Sony's booth.
Thanks a lot. What have you got to share with us today?
Right, we've got a bunch of new things. So the number one thing that we have is our latest lens. This is the 135mm, the FE135 F1.8, basically a telephoto portrait lens. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a G Master lens as well, so you know it's the highest quality that we actually make. And there's a ton of new technology that's in this lens. So if I take the hood off, you'll see that for a 135, it's actually pretty compact. It's not that big, and it's actually quite light. The lens only weighs about 950 grams. But there's a ton of technology in it that is specifically made for mirrorless cameras. So primarily, the higher the resolution goes in sensors nowadays, and Sony is the leading sensor manufacturer. So we're looking at what the future of sensors are going to deliver to us. So looking at our current 42.4 megapixel cameras and way beyond that, our G Master series is essentially tomorrow's lenses today. So we're looking for beyond the three-digit sensors. So in doing so, we had to redesign the entire lens and redesign the types of materials that we use and also the manufacturing process. So this lens features what we call an XA, an extreme aspheric lens, and it's got an unusual shape to it that only new modern day lens techniques to design and manufacture them can be employed. So this lens couldn't have existed years ago because there wasn't a method of actually making it. So that extreme aspheric lens is also a little bit lighter, and it gives you 100% corner-to-corner sharpness. It's an extremely sharp lens from corner to corner without things like chromatic aberration or any distortion in the lens. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is going to be famous for the bokeh it's going to create, huh?
Absolutely. So that's the other thing that it does. So in addition to the extreme aspheric lens, there's also a super ED and ED glass. Those combined allow you to get an extremely sharp image. So it's a very, very sharp image. Possibly, we haven't had it tested through independent sources yet. We expect that this is possibly going to be one of the sharpest lenses on the market ever. But because it's a 135 and because it has a 11 blade circular aperture, and it has those three lens elements that allow it to give a beautiful shallow depth of field at f1.8, you can actually get extremely good clean bokeh. When I say clean bokeh, when you have a look at point sources of light, in telephoto lenses like this, on a 135 typically, when you have a look at that extreme bokeh, especially when you're shooting wide open like f1.8, you might see what they call onion rings in your bokeh, and those are usually an indication of how the lens was ground or polished. You don't get that in this lens at all. So your bokeh balls, essentially what we're calling them, would be very smooth. So you get a very luscious, softly focused background, but you still get 100% very, very, very sharp images in the foreground. So it doesn't kind of end there. There's a lot of other technology in the lens as well. In order to drive a lens properly on a mirrorless system, these cameras are now shooting at 10, 20 frames per second, and being able to keep up with that speed, what we've done is we've divided the focusing system into two groups. So there's two groups of focusing systems, and they work in unison with each other, but also independently. To drive those motors, we've employed a new motor drive system called XD, which is an extreme dynamic motor system. And each group has two motors, and it's basically on a floating focus system, which means it's essentially almost like a magnetic rod, so it doesn't actually touch. So you don't get any of the grinding or friction or noise, but it also makes it a lot faster and a lot more efficient. So each element, each group has two motors, which means with two groups you have four motors driving the lens. So extremely fast, extremely quiet, which is important not only for portrait shooting, but also for video when you're going to be shooting.
Now, this portrait would be exclusively for which type of photographers, you think?
So you'll find that primarily most photographers, portrait and wedding photographers, this is really the number one lens that a lot of them will gravitate towards. Because the further you go into telephoto, the flatter your image becomes, so you don't get distortion. If I had to shoot you right now with a 24mm lens, I'd have to be really close to you. And when I do that, you're going to get some distortion. Yeah, and it's not distortion from the lens, it's distortion from the focal length. And as you go further back, I'll fill the frame with your face, but by standing much further back of the 135, and I actually get a more true-to-life image of what you really look like. So in portrait photographer, a 135 is a very flattering lens for your subject matter. So 90% of the people that are going to be using this is going to be portrait. We also see a 135 being used in sports, indoor sports specifically, things like basketball or volleyball, those type of things. And it's primarily because of the wide open aperture and the 135mm reach. So shooting in low light situations, you can be able to shoot with a 1.8 aperture and be able to get a good reach on the lens as well.
And this will currently be released when, and the pricing?
All right, so it's about $2,000. We announced it 2 days ago, and it should start shipping early April, I believe. Yeah. So pre-sales have already started. I believe pre-sales are going extremely well with the lens so far. So if you need to get one, I would put in your order now because they're going to sell out pretty quickly. Yeah.
And of course, all your vendors like B&H and Adorama, all of them would have a supply.
Yeah, all the normal distributors that sell Sony products will have a supply. Yep.
Right, and specific information about this and other products, the website is?
Right, so there's two locations you can go to. One is for more product information, www.sony.com. I'm looking under the electronics section under digital imaging. And then for more information about our artisans and more of our programs that we have, I believe you were speaking about Alpha Female as well, you can go to alphauniverse.com. There's a lot of information there about different artisans, different programs, different events that we're participating in. So that's also a really good resource. That's alphauniverse.com.
Yeah. Tell us about camera bodies, what existing and future developments.
Right, so we've actually developed quite a lot. You know, we're in our third generation of full-frame mirrorless cameras. We also just announced a new APS-C camera. So we have in the market currently the A6300 and the A6500. We just announced and launched the A6400 2 weeks ago. Phenomenal camera. It's a 24 megapixel. One of the main features of the A6400 that we just announced is it utilizes the same front-end LSI and the same processor as we use on the A9. So that allows the camera to be extremely fast and extremely accurate, but we're also able to put in things like artificial intelligence. So our eye autofocus system in our Sony cameras, we're renowned for having the best eye autofocus because you can shoot continuously and track a person's eye, and if they turn their head, it'll follow that particular eye. We've updated that now to an artificial intelligence where you don't have to press a separate button. You can push the shutter button, and that'll automatically do focus tracking if you have it set in focus tracking mode. If the person turns their face, it'll track the closest eye. If they turn their head so you don't see the eye, it'll then go to face detection technology. And if they move from that, it'll go to object tracking. And it works in reverse as well. So as they come back, it'll bounce from, so you never lose focus on your subject. And now we're taking that technology and we're going to be updating our existing cameras in the market. So like I said, we're on our third generation of A7 series. So the A7R Mark III and the A7 Mark III are the current best-selling cameras in that space. And those two, I believe April, will be getting the IAF update, the artificial intelligence. There's approximately 29 updates to the firmware that we're going through. I don't have time to go through all of them, but that's really the main core of it, is updating the, you got to think that this is like a microcomputer, right? So we can actually update with newer technology. The A9 is getting version 5.0 in a couple of weeks' time. So if you own an A9, you can have a tremendous amount of updates to that camera as well. And that'll give you not only the artificial intelligence for IAF, but it'll also update to the new focus tracking technology that's been included on the A6400.
Right.
Obviously, it'll work a lot faster and better on the A9 because it has a faster sensor.
Right. I understand you also updated one of the batteries.
Say again?
You updated one of the batteries.
So in the Mark III generations, we went from the W series battery to the Z battery, right? And that's made a huge impact. So there was a bunch of updates. So the A9, the A7R3, and the A7 III have the Z battery, much longer shooting times. It also has dual card slots, and they have a toggle on the back. So really catering more towards the professional user. Like a wedding photographer, you're going to have 2 card slots. If you don't have 2 card slots on a camera, you're literally putting your business at stake. No, if you miss somebody's wedding or a card fails, that's detrimental.
Well, it's fantastic that you're creating a super camera, plus you're now in line with a better battery.
Absolutely.
And how much more battery power? 50% or so?
No, it's about 2.5 times the power. But we've also created the efficiency of the camera. So not only is the battery about 2.5 times the power of the previous battery, but the efficiency in the way that the camera processes or utilizes power consumption has been increased as well. So we've we've enabled it to now, on paper it says that the SEPA ratings, the SEPA standards, which most cameras are rated at, is about 710 shots, but real world experience will give you well over 1,000 images. I've been shooting, I know we did a sports shoot in New York a couple months ago, and shooting in silent shutter at 20 frames a second on the A9, I was getting 4,000 images per battery charge.
For one battery?
For one battery charge. So it really depends on how you use it. So if you're using it in silent shutter and you're shooting burst, you can get thousands, literally 4,000 images. If you're shooting with a strobe and you're firing single shots at a time, the rating should be about 700 images.
That's really good, because it was used to be half of that.
Absolutely. What's else also increased is the battery life for video. So when you have a look at our video capabilities, it's approximately 110, I think it's rated between 110 and 115 minutes, and that's for continuous shooting in 4K. And when you have a look at other mirrorless cameras that are out in the market, their continuous shooting at 4K is usually below 20 minutes. So the battery consumption on the camera is, like I said, the power has been increased, but also the way that we consume that power in the camera has been improved a lot as well.
Now the video time, the length of the video, is it still 15 or 30 minutes?
No, actually it's 29 minutes, 59 seconds, and that's based on a tariff. So if you categorize a camera as a still or mirrorless camera versus a handheld video camcorder. So we don't, depending on your shooting situation, we don't typically have any issues, getting to 30 minutes. The A6400, for instance, will actually record beyond that. So there's no time limit on the A6400.
Time limit on the 6400.
Correct.
Fantastic. Yeah, with a better life, better battery life, and then longer, there's no
record
stop
time.
and start
Exactly.
on video.
Yep.
That's a super
It makes
deal.
a big deal. Yep.
Especially for editing.
Oh yes. I know how that goes. That's the biggest pain when I edit videos.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. So you actually, because there was I think 2006 was a law about the time limit on SLRs on video.
Correct. It's anything that's classified as a still camera. Yeah.
That's good. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we've covered a lot of things. There were a few other announcements that we made 2 days ago. We announced a new Bluetooth remote commander. So it doesn't use infrared, it actually utilizes Bluetooth. That'll be shipping in a month or two as well. I think that's $79. And then we also announced an update to our circular polarized filter lineup. Those all have Zeiss T-Star coatings. They're a little bit thinner profiles, so you don't ever have to worry about getting vignetting in your filter. And we have those, I think it's all the way from 55 millimeters to 77 millimeters. So there's, I think, 6 or 7 new filters that were announced 2 days ago as well.
Well, Sony's continues to be on the cutting edge of everything.
Yeah, and primarily because we listen to our customers. We come to shows like WPPI, we interact a lot with our customers. We don't just listen to them, we actually respond. So, taking the feedback that we get, going and re-improving, developing new cameras, developing new technology, and even as an example, doing the updates to the current cameras.
Exactly.
A current A9 user is literally
service,
right. That's going to essentially give them a brand new experience that they can build on their existing A9 or A7, and jump ahead to the next set of technology without having to buy a new camera to get there.
Yeah, that's a good deal. Well, thanks for your time, El-Deane.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.